We tend to see today's world as the result of a long process of evolution that has come to an end, as if nothing more can change. Yet the process of evolution is still happening and is not just the story of a distant past full of dinosaurs and prehistoric men. Without exception, all living species are changing slowly and progressively in an unending cycle that continues from one generation to the next. Genetic and physical characteristics are undergoing transformations. But it's more than that. Behaviors are also changing, and all living creatures adapt constantly to changes in their environment. Evolution is on the move. Alexei Vereshchagin and Yulia Bragina are ethologists who trained at the University of Moscow. For more than 15 years, they have been studying the behavior of very unique dogs, the stray dogs of Moscow. In this city, animals are part of the landscape. In large Russian cities, scientists are observing the behavior of dogs that are tending to revert to their wild origins. How are these dogs adapting to urban life? Stray dogs must choose, decipher the codes of the human world to take advantage of it and live in contact with people, or retreat and live on the fringes of the human world. Moscow is full of vast uninhabited, abandoned or industrial zones that provide these dogs with shelter and allow them to live there undisturbed. The further you go from the city center, the less contact they have with humans, and the more aggressive these dogs become. At the edges of the vast Moscow suburbs, might these dogs crossbreed with wolves? Could this lead to a new species?
Those dogs I was telling you about are here. Rabionava Street.
During the Soviet era, stray dogs were captured and immediately euthanized. But when the USSR collapsed, their population skyrocketed. Alexei and Yulia worked on campaigns to count strays in 1996 and 2000. There were approximately 35,000 stray dogs in Moscow alone. Since then, the situation has changed. The city authorities have launched campaigns to sterilize strays and place them in kennels. In addition, activists in anti-stray movements called dog hunters have attempted to exterminate all stray animals. Despite all this, there are still many stray dogs, especially far from the city centers. Biologist Andrei Polyakov, Alexei and Yulia's professor, studied them for more than 30 years. He classified them in several categories, ranging from the most integrated with humans to the wildest.
So here we are. It's got to be around here somewhere, in Yakornara Street. There it is.
Alexei and Yulia divide up the observation sites for the next few days. They want to study the different behavior strategies of the dogs based on their category. They hope to monitor and analyze the dogs' movements using GPS collars.
These are the GPS trackers we're going to try to put on them. You need to adjust the collars to fit the dogs. Of course, we'll have to get them back. And don't get bitten, okay?
Okay.
There are still stray dogs, but Moscow is huge and finding them is not that easy. Yulia goes looking for them in an abandoned, half-built hospital, while Alexei goes to a subway station in the north of the city where several students said they had seen a group of dogs. This huge hospital just outside of the Moscow city center was never finished and has been abandoned for several years. It's an ideal shelter for stray dogs. Alas, not a dog in sight.
On the grounds of the abandoned hospital in Kovrino, there are paw prints from 2 dogs from last night. The first are larger, the second are smaller, about the size of a fox. Going by the paw prints, the dogs roam around this area and have gone into the building several times.
Even though they may look like pets, these stray dogs are not pets. They have been strays from generation to generation. Very few abandoned pets manage to enter these groups and survive more than a few months. In the evolutionary process, stray dogs occupy a middle space between wolves and pet dogs.
In fact, dog categories are determined by how they get their food. Here, the dogs do both. They are foragers and active beggars. It isn't good for the dogs to use only one way of finding food. When they can, they use both methods, depending on the situation and time.
These dogs both beg for food and forage for waste food. They are the ones best adapted to the human world. They take advantage of all opportunities. You often see them near subway station entrances, and sometimes even in the underground tunnels. They have learned to beg for food and behave in a friendly manner. They can tell who is likely to feed them with just a glance.
For the dogs in this category, the pace of their lives doesn't depend on their biological clocks, but rather on the pace of people's lives. The dogs, therefore, depend on the rhythm the city imposes. When people give them food, when people go by, when restaurants and coffee shops take out their trash, the dogs know all these details perfectly and take them into account.
Every morning, it's the same ritual. They arrive near the subway station, take their spots on the traffic island where people do not go, and observe the situation. Then, they head out to make the rounds of their territory, moving carefully among the cars. They analyze the new scents left by the pet dogs in the neighborhood, as if they were checking in. This type of action solidifies the pack. It also marks their territory, because they warn all other animals that this is their area and theirs alone. Then they go back to the feeding post at the subway entrance and wait patiently. They know people will come to feed them. Once they have gotten their meat, they head to the traffic island across the way, a part of their territory where they feel safe. They know they won't be bothered because people don't go there. But what happens when people enter their territory, especially the strategic zone near the subway entrance? When they see that they're being watched or notice someone change route because of the dogs, they interpret it as aggression and react instantly, especially if the person gets scared and starts to retreat. They congratulate themselves for their mini victory right away.
Usually, things don't go very far. They bark, and that's all because this is where they get their food, and they know it. They don't want to make conflicts worse or create an aggressive mood that would work against them.
However, people who cross through their territory without paying them any attention are not seen as aggressive. It's a non-event that they pick up on in a split second. Generation after generation, these wild dogs have intelligently adapted to the city's human inhabitants. They are much more tolerant of people than they would be in the wild. Similarly, people tolerate the strays all the more as the people of Moscow love dogs. This strong relationship between the people of Moscow and these animals is a source of a unique category of strays. Alexei has found 2 dogs that live right in front of these buildings, with an entirely different way of life. The people in the neighborhood have built them a shelter and take turns feeding them. These dogs aren't beggars at all. They don't have to look for their food.
He's a really good dog, like a pet. The people from the German Shepherd Club came to look at him and wanted to adopt him. But there are 2 dogs, and the female feels very bad when he's not here. She misses him a lot. They're very close, a real family like husband and wife. If they weren't so close, I might have let them adopt him, but we talked about it and I told them they had to leave him. Of course, living in the streets isn't the same as in a house, but we watch over them here. They aren't on their own. We take care of them.
These dogs have a relatively comfortable life without the stress of looking for food. They move about peacefully in their neighborhood with full stomachs. This category of stray dogs is still very present in Moscow thanks to these human protectors, because of how the city is laid out. Huge parking garages, construction sites, factories, and power plants are sprinkled throughout Moscow, each with its watchmen to look after the site. Their strict uniforms often hide sensitive hearts, devoted to these animals.
Oh, my darlings. It's Rosa. I know, it's Rosa. Yes, yes, you're my favorite too. You're all my favorites.
Scientists classify these strays in the guard dog category. How does this type of dog associated with one or more people behave? Are they still strays? Do they stay within a limited area even though they are free to come and go as they like? Yulia is going to meet Alexander, one of the watchmen at this garage. He's adopted this pack of dogs. He and his colleagues take turns looking after them. She hopes to get the opportunity to put a GPS collar on one of the dogs to learn more about their movements.
Hello?
Hello.
Are there any dogs here? Stray dogs?
No. The dogs here are ours. They're our dogs. We feed them.
Are they all yours?
Yes, all of them. I come every day. I give them food, water, and again when I leave. They have food. We feed them all. There aren't any strays here.
Okay, so they're all yours.
Yes, they have their shelter. They live there. And we give them blankets.
So is one of the dogs your favorite?
Yes, Mishka.
Can I ask you to put this GPS collar on him so we can track him by computer and see where he goes?
Yes, of course.
We'll be able to see exactly what he does with the computer.
Okay. Where are you, my boy? Hello? She's Cholia. Ah, there you are. Wait. Let me put this on, okay? There you go. Good boy. Let's get this on, Mishka. There. Good boy. Sleep. That's all, Cholia. That's all.
Tell me, do they ever leave here?
Only to go to the construction site next door. They follow the workers who go to work and come back, but they don't go out alone.
They don't go anywhere else on their own?
No.
Really?
They go as far as the guard shack, over there.
Oh, I see.
And that's it. They never wander around alone.
If these dogs never leave the garage premises, that would confirm they've switched categories. They were strays, and now they are sedentary after being adopted. An unspoken agreement seems to have been reached between the animals and people. In exchange for guarding the parking garage, they are fed, housed, and cared for. They show affectionate ties that are very similar to those with pets. But are they? They are still free to go whenever they want. Are they guards that never leave their post, as Alexander claims? Alexei is visiting Simbad, another watchman for garages in another part of the city. Simbad has also adopted stray dogs. The scientist wants to compare their behavior with that of Alexander's dogs.
This border conflict with the dogs on the roofs is very interesting, because here the border is very clearly drawn. Each group of dogs defends its territory vigorously. But at the same time, it isn't a direct conflict or a real fight. It is a sort of strong message among neighbors that says, hello, we're here at the border, and crossing it is out of the question. It is therefore not a real conflict, neither a real fight. But by defending their territory, the dogs from both packs earn themselves a kind of victory and strengthen their dominant status.
This behavior is very similar to that of wild wolves, but we can see it here in a large city such as Moscow. None of these dogs truly feel threatened. They are entirely confident, certain they will not really be attacked. This pseudo-aggressive behavior, above all for show, avoids conflict. Peace reigns because each group stays in its territory. The dogs on the ground are the same as Alexander's dogs, guard dogs associated with one or more humans. But the dogs on the roof are an entirely different type.
I'm going to try to find the dogs from the roofs. They go through here to get onto the garages. They must be around here somewhere.
These dogs are defined as wild and do not live in contact with people. They see people as a threat. Like wolves, they keep to themselves and are harder to find.
There they are. I found our two dogs. They're very big. They live here for sure, in this forest, right next to the garages. They regularly patrol the border, and that really annoys the other garage dogs.
The very structure of Moscow is what lets these wild dogs live in the heart of the city. There are large forested areas scattered everywhere, and these areas are possible shelters for these animals. These dogs are the ones that are mainly responsible for attacks on people. They can be very aggressive when someone enters their territory. Do these categories of dogs interact with each other? Does Sinbad, the watchman of this garage, believe that his dogs never leave the garage premises without him, like Alexander does?
Sinbad, can I ask you a favor? Could you put this collar on the dog so we know where he goes?
Okay, Malish. Don't be scared, little one.
You're a good dog, aren't you? You know what you want. Do they wander around the garbage cans, or do they always stay here?
No, they never leave the garage. This is a darn good dog.
Yes, I can see that. He's friendly and smart.
You know, when I walk around, he's always with me, right in front. If he sees me moving away, he comes back right away. He never leaves the garage premises. If anyone he doesn't know comes around, right away he goes to see them and barks. He guards the premises. He guards this area.
It's better than a camera.
It's his territory, you know.
and Alexei now have 8 full days of GPS location recordings. They are going to see whether these dogs are still strays or if they've become sedentary.
Да.
They start by analyzing the movements of Sinbad's dog, Malish.
Там не подкопаешься.
Просматривая GPS-трекинг.
Malish's GPS data confirms that he does stay in his territory most of the day.
Находится на территории.
All of his exits are for the most part linked to the movements of Sinbad, the watchman who looks after him.
Синдбада, человека, который за ним присматривает. И перемещение за
Those
машиной
exits
Синдбада
match Sinbad's car.
бежит за машиной,
He runs behind it
обратно.
until a store and then goes back.
И выходы за территорию.
But we can also see him going out of his territory and into the forest behind it. Lots of times at night, apparently when his master is asleep.
Все основное время собака
Most of the time, the dog goes with him on his rounds in the garage and is next to him.
рядом с ним.
Мне кажется, что это очередной выбор.
And here, you see that he goes into the forest.
По крайней мере, вот такого
He goes through there, on the side.
Некуда. Ну, тоже, мне
Yet
кажется,
he
что
doesn't like the dogs over there.
по краю проходил, скорее всего. Не выглядят они собаками, которые оказываются.
The dogs on the other side are wild dogs from the forest right behind the garage. The daytime conflicts with them are probably not an issue at night, because this dog regularly enters their territory and hasn't come to any harm. But he does it without his master knowing. Even if he has a close bond with a human, he's kept a nighttime social life similar to that of animals in the wild. He's still a stray, but only at night. During the day, he's faithful to his watchman. And what about Mishka, Alexander's dog? For him, the situation is different because Alexei and Yulia have learned that one of the dogs in this pack was shot to death a few weeks ago. This is a regular occurrence in Moscow. Plus, a gunshot wound can still be seen between the eyes of one of the dogs.
Очевидно, что стали меньше двигаться и...
It is clear that they have become less mobile and more sedentary,
Наверное, связать это
probably
с
because of the
стрельбой.
gunshots. But it looks
Но
like
при
they
этом
still
всё
cross the
равно
railroad
через
all the
железную
same.
дорогу.
Do you think they cross it?
Тебе как кажется, что они ходят же они на другую сторону?
Yes, you can see they go to the other side.
Несмотря на то, что одну из них
Even though one of them was killed, they still explore the surroundings, but adapt their territory, taking into account new realities.
Александр говорит, что
All
они
these dots, they correspond to the garages. Alexander says they never leave the lot, and indeed, you can see they rarely go out. Except here, they are accompanying workers from the construction site, and that's what he told us.
Yes, they do go with them.
In other words, they only leave their territory with people, and here there are 3 independent exits, apparently. What time was it?
11 in the morning.
Ah, so it's probably a worker who went to a store or restaurant.
Yes, because it was lunchtime, or just before.
These dogs have understood their safe zone is limited to the garage premises and its nearby surroundings. They never go more than a few dozen meters beyond that. These animals have adapted to the danger by restricting their territory, something they can easily do because they don't have to look for food. But it isn't good for their social life, which is limited almost exclusively to their own pack. While this category of stray dogs associated with people is relatively safe within their territory, the same isn't true for dogs that can count only on themselves. Do they have a strategy to avoid danger? They are wild animals, but there is a very specific pecking order within their pack, exactly like wolves, but with one difference. The members of a wolf pack are related, But here, they are different breeds and don't look alike. To join the pack, each individual had to pledge allegiance to the alpha dog. And in this pack, there is indeed an alpha. It's him. He's always the one who authorizes the pack's movements. Subtle behaviors show the pack's pecking order. He's the scout. When he suggests moving, he turns around. All the dogs wait for the alpha's approval, and the pack sets out. This same behavior is called recruiting in wolves. Each individual has a place in the group's pecking order. The black female with her tail in the air shows her confidence. The tan dog, lower down in the pecking order, lowers his tail as he nears her to signal his submission. He keeps his tail down every time they interact. Even in games, the female is dominant. When feeding, the tan dog patiently waits his turn. This pecking order makes it possible to maintain constant vigilance when the group is exposed, and therefore keeps it safe.
Even when they are resting, they keep a close eye on the situation, watching everything going on around them. And when someone shows up who is interesting or who could be dangerous, in any situation, then they react immediately. They never lose control, not for a second.
Logically, this pack must have an isolated spot to rest and let off steam. The week's worth of GPS tracking data shows many trips between the subway station and a zone a few hundred meters to the north. According to Alexei, it could be where they shelter.
I'm going to try to follow them to find their hiding place.
Здесь их тайное укрытие,
This
которое находится вдали
is their
от
secret spot.
мест поиска пищи.
It's far away from where they get
основной
their food.
активности, потому что основная задача
This
укрытия
place's main purpose
избавиться от
is to
внимания
allow them to
внешнего
rest
мира,
safely
а
and
пищевые
hide from any
источники,
attention
они
because
привлекают
sources of food can attract other beggar
других
dogs.
собак и связаны в любом случае с людьми, поэтому здесь, в этом
Here,
тихом, укромном
the dogs would rather be
местечке
amongst
собаки
themselves,
предпочитают находиться
without
без
any other
людей или
dogs
других
or
собак,
people.
поэтому и
And
эта
this
территория
territory
активно
is
охраняется.
well protected.
In the wild, predators behave exactly the same way. Their shelter is always far from their feeding zone. Despite the domestication of wolves that began more than 30,000 years ago, these dogs have kept this behavior intact. The many derelict or abandoned zones in the city provide the dogs with shelters. Here, they can let down their guard from the dangers of city life, other packs of dogs, people with bad intentions, and intense cold. Moscow has another unique quality. The city has a gigantic network of railroads that runs through the city's suburbs and connects derelict zones and forests, such as the ones alongside Simbad's parking facility.
They've got a spot there. Let's check it out. Right down there. Look, they're there. Here, all the dogs live near the railroad tracks. The tracks also act as the border. Their behavior shows it clearly.
These vast areas are where the category of dogs that scientists call feral foragers are found. In these little inhabited zones, there is very little opportunity to beg. The dogs can only eat what they find, because even though they are wild, they are not able to hunt for food themselves. They are completely dependent on food humans throw away. Scientists believe that the domestication of wolves into dogs made their descendants dependent on people.
There, look. You can see their tracks.
You can clearly see that they come through here regularly. In there. That looks very convenient for them.
Yes, this culvert might be very long on both sides.
It probably doesn't go on forever, but yes, it looks very long.
I don't think anyone would come poison them here. They aren't bothering anyone.
Yes, you're right.
Except maybe psychopaths. Dog hunters can't catch them in there, and the dogs can always go out through another exit.
Alexei is going back on his own to a very outlying area of Moscow, where he'd counted nearly 200 stray dogs during a dog population census in 2000.
Сейчас мы вступаем на довольно дикую, а
We're
следовательно,
entering a wild and potentially dangerous area where many dogs live.
достаточно большой, и многие из
They're
них
not all friendly compared to the ones in the city center.
собаки в центре города. Когда
When we
вы
come near, the dogs warn us by barking.
собаки чаще
They're letting
всего
us know.
предупреждать вас
And we
лаем.
need to understand that we're on the edge of their territory.
Некий вход на их территорию.
These wild dogs are very wary of humans. If we approach them too quickly and they feel threatened, they won't hesitate to attack as a pack. In Moscow's greater suburbs, a very large number of food production plants are located along the railroad tracks. The dogs very often live nearby and survive on the waste from these plants.
It's very cold out today with this freezing rain. Despite it all, the dogs move around a lot, looking for food and shelter. Each pack has its own travel schedule. Regular daily trips based on the schedules of restaurants, nearby businesses, and waste collection. Even in winter, they continuously patrol their territories and are always on the lookout for information.
In these sparsely populated industrial zones, dog diversity is dropping because abandoned pets rarely join their packs. Scientists have observed that this category of stray dogs is tending to lose some of the characteristics of pet dogs, such as spotted fur, tail wagging, and kindness. The characteristics that separate dogs from wolves. They are also observing homogenization in stray dogs' appearance. Large size, thick fur, angular heads similar to wolves, almond-shaped eyes, and perky ears. Most puppies never reach adulthood. Formidable natural selection is at work. Who are these puppies' parents and ancestors? Could there be hybrid animals among these puppies with wolf-like traits? Under what circumstances are dogs likely to encounter wolves? Alexei is off to see Vladimir Bologov, a biologist who specializes in wolf behavior.
Ох, нелегко же до вас добраться сквозь
It's
такие
not easy to
снега.
find you with all this snow.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Потихонечку
Very glad to
очень
see you.
рады. С
Some tea?
удовольствием.
Yes, please.
Don't confuse cases of artificial hybridization, when people want to produce a new breed of dogs, with natural hybridization. In nature, this type of crossbreed is relatively rare, and has very little influence on the situation. Hybrids only emerge when wolves have almost disappeared.
Do you mean to say that the phenomenon is real and can happen in places where there is a very small number of wolves?
Yes, the more the number of wolves drops, and the more dogs are active in forests, the better the chance there is that hybrids will emerge.
For more than 30 years, Vladimir Bologov has taken in orphaned wolf cubs that people bring him. He feeds them until they reach adulthood in a huge enclosure away from people, then reintroduces them in areas where wolves have been exterminated.
We'll see how it goes. I'll go in, and they might come to meet you, or they'll hide. It depends on if they're sleeping or not. They're unpredictable. They're around here somewhere. Let's wait. They should show up. Usually, they come around easily. But when there are new people, they're more cautious.
Because of human pressure, the fragmentation of their habitat and hunting, only a small population of wolves is left in Russia. But there is a very large number of dogs, and this increases the chance of hybridization. Vladimir Bologov has counted up to 5,000 dogs living on the territory equivalent in size to that of one pack of wolves. It is always the male dogs that reproduce with she-wolves because they look for females outside their territory, whereas female dogs and wolves do not leave their territory. But when a she-wolf breeds with a dog, her pups grow up in the forest, away from humans, and are therefore invisible. Vladimir Bologov has had the opportunity to observe a few.
When we observe a dog-wolf cross, we see intermediary behavior. It's already not a dog, but not yet a wolf. So we don't know exactly what to expect, because they're no longer very close to people, but at the same time, they're not as distant as wolves can be.
Exactly. Hybrids lose their proximity to people, but they have the strength, size, and veracity of wolves.
Yes, with all that, they have a dog spirit.
Plus, they lose their fear of people. We know very well that the more we communicate with wolves, the more we destroy this innate wolf behavior, which is of course not the case with dogs who tend to be insolent.
Yes, and we have seen these hybrids show aggressive behaviors, such as displays of anger, or the desire to provoke or knock over someone.
Irrespective of what people do, wolves always want to get away from people if they can, whereas dogs don't.
It happens very fast. It doesn't take years and years to replace wolves with dogs. It's very simple. You eliminate the wolves, and you've immediately got the dogs who arrive, because they don't have limitations on their movements. It is obvious that crossbreeding is possible. What is interesting is that after a sudden drop in the number of wolves, the wolf population regenerates, clearly, but with the participation of dogs. And when a dog comes back from the forest, no one knows if he fathered wolf cubs.
What happens in the woods stays in the woods.
Dogs and wolves have the same type of genomes and can therefore have fertile offspring. But scientists have shown that hybridization leads to the loss of adaptive traits necessary for life in the wild, and thereby to the disappearance of hybrids. These stray dogs are not a new species, no more than the few hybrids that appear in the heart of the forests. But they are a distinct category. These animals have kept most of the behaviors of their wolf ancestors, which allows them to survive. But they have lost one, their predatory instinct. This makes them completely dependent on people. Their future is highly uncertain. They are the pariahs of human society.